Hi everyone. I am going to read from Learning How to Learn, Barbara Oakley, Terence Sanyowski, and Alistair McConville. I am going to read a part of chapter 10, which begins on page 126. After every page or so, I'll stop to practice active recall, where I try to remember the information I just read. And I might also just ask some questions too. Chapter 10, Learning with Clubs and Groups, Finding Your Mission and How Terry Nearly Burned Down the School. Hi, my name's Terry Sanyowski. Great to meet you. I was different from Barb and Al growing up. I was the science guy in elementary school, but I didn't get along with languages. I had a chemistry lab in my basement. I loved making bright flashes, bangs, and clouds of smoke. When I was 7 years old, I made a papier-mâché volcano that set the smoke alarm off. Everyone in the school had to evacuate. They all remembered the day I nearly burned down the school. So I'm just going to close my book here for a second or turn it around and think about what I just read. And I'm going to practice active recall, and I'm doing this because I want you to practice it as well after you read a page or two from your book. So on this first page, the writer is Terence, and he says that he's not that good at languages, but he was really good at science. In fact, he was always kind of doing projects at his house that were fun, but maybe a little bit dangerous. Next page, page 127. Terry the Troublemaker. In high school, I was bored in my science classes. They were too simple for me because I had gotten ahead. I asked a lot of questions, but I was told that I was disrupting the class. I was a troublemaker. Mind you, just because you're bored doesn't mean that the work's too easy for you. It might just mean you aren't being curious enough. Radio Club saved me. We were a group of science lovers who used to meet after school to learn about and build radios. We practiced sending signals using Morse code. We even bounced radio signals off the moon using antennas we'd built. Finally, I could ask whatever questions I liked. And there is an image here on the page that shows two young students sitting in front of some radios and an older man who's watching them and supporting them. And the caption on the side say, "My fellow club members and I are preparing to bounce radio signals off the moon in the radio club at St. Joseph High School in Cleveland. I'm the one in the middle." One of the best ways to have satisfying experiences at school is to join clubs at your school that do activities you enjoy. If you are homeschooling, there are often ways to join clubs and groups outside of or even connected to local schools. Don't be afraid to ask about forming a new club if it doesn't exist at your school, like a Learning How to Learn club. Finding friends with whom you can share what you love doing is an excellent way to develop true friendships and help your creativity bloom. I'll be providing you with some information. This is not in the book, I'm just telling you. I will be providing you with some information about the ESL Conversation Club. If you're interested in attending it, you'll have access to that. So I just finished reading another page, so I'm going to take a look at it really quickly. And I'm going to turn my book around and I'm going to practice active recall. So in this section, Terence talked about how he was really good at science. He was so good that sometimes some people thought he was a troublemaker because they thought he was disruptive. But then he got to use all his curiosity and his questioning and his passion for science in a science club. That gave him a good outlet, a good environment for him to explore and experiment. So in this radio club, he worked with his friends on sending signals to the moon. And Terrence thinks that being part of a club is a good way to find people who are interested in the same thing as you, and a good way for a person to grow and learn. Okay, next page, page 128. What is your mission? Before I start reading, I'm just going to talk about this little image here on top. So here the caption says, the club members and I are adjusting a radio antenna on the roof of my high school. I'm the one on the left. So here he's being an active participant in setting up an antenna. What is your mission? One day the teacher supervising the radio club asked me a question. What is your mission? I didn't know, but it made me start to think about the future. I needed to grow up and find something to do in life. I was most interested in gravity and brains. How does gravity travel? Why can my brain learn some things really quickly, like physics, and not other things, like languages? I wish I knew then what I know now about the brain and how to learn. I would have done much better at languages, like Barb and Al. I had taken classes in German, but it wasn't until later, when I had a German girlfriend, that I learned enough German to at least get by. Maybe I just wasn't motivated enough in high school. Even though I haven't finished the entire page, this one section here, it's just a few paragraphs, it has come to a conclusion, so I'm going to turn my book around and practice active recall and see what I remember from this. So in this section, Terrence realized at a certain point that he was going to have to kind of choose a career path, and he thought he was interested in gravity, but he was also interested in the brain, and he was curious about why some things were so easy for him to learn, but some things were hard for him to learn. And he realized that he had studied German for a while and he wasn't getting better, and it wasn't until he had a German girlfriend that he actually improved. So he was thinking about these two interests he had. Okay, I'm going to end right there on page 128. This chapter continues for a couple more pages until 132, and I'm going to let you read the rest of that yourself. I'm also going to encourage you to, after reading a page, that you stop, put the book down, and practice active recall. Practice that with someone in your house, practice that by yourself, but do practice it, and practice it out loud. The sections, I also like to go through and look at the subtitles for the entire chapter. So the other sections you're going to read in this chapter are What I Learned at Princeton, Jumping into the Brain, Artificial Brains, Pause and Recall, and Summing it up. Okay, so have fun reading chapter 10, and I will see you soon.